Hello, it is a Friday, new episode of the podcast. I hope everyone's doing good heading into the weekend. I hope everyone's had a good week and that things are smooth sailing here at the beginning of February as we head into 1 year. We're 1 month away from 1 year of this doggone quarantine, which I have no idea where we're at in it anymore. I have no clue. Because I see all the stories of life quarantine still on February 5th to life normal on February 5th throughout the United States. There's no rhyme or reason anymore. I have no idea what people are doing. So if you're still in quarantine, I hope you're surviving it. If you're not in quarantine, I hope your day was great yesterday. It's weird. Spokane is in a mostly quarantine situation. I think everyone here is still being pretty precocious. Precocious. That's a word from Mary Poppins. I have no idea why I remember that. But I think we're mostly still in the lockdown. Although restaurants in town are starting to open back up again, which is kind of cool. Slowly, I think they're at 25 or 50% capacity. So things are starting to get back to a little bit of normal now that we're in the vaccine world, even though the vaccine apparently is impossible to get. Anyways, I don't even know where all this is coming from. I hope your week went well. I hope your weekend is looking good. The quarantine and stuff is affecting my weekend. We'll get to that in a little bit. There was huge, for me, personal huge sports news for me last night. There was a story, though, that made me chuckle, and a walk down memory lane as I look at the notes that I wrote down for the week, things we didn't get to. First thing I wrote down, I didn't get to. Did anyone else do butter and sugar on their pancakes as a kid? I just wrote that down in my notes. I was at my brother's house over the weekend. They do the classic peanut butter and syrup on their pancakes, and I asked around to my wife and my sister-in-law, hey, did you guys do, when you were a kid on your pancakes, just butter and then sprinkle regular old granulated sugar over top of your pancakes? And they both said what I think normal people say, absolutely not. Are you psychotic? And I said, yes, I am. And it's the best. And I realized this is a rarity. So I'm going to throw it out there because if you don't do this and you've never heard of it, I want to take credit for this. And maybe this can take off from the podcast, but you need to do it. If you have pancakes this weekend, which everyone should, because it's the weekend, take butter, put butter on the pancake, nice thin layer of butter so the whole thing's covered, and then sprinkle sugar, just regular old sugar over top of it. It's really healthy, first of all. And it just tastes amazing because it kind of turns into a frosting, a little bit of a frosting. I don't want to spoil it. I don't want to spoil how good it is, even though I'm spoiling it right now. Just do it this weekend. You have pancakes, butter, granulated sugar. Then let me know how your life has changed for the better. Okay, so I wrote that down. But the other thing I had written down was there was a story I saw earlier this week about a guy who went on a date. It blew up on Twitter or something. That must have been where I saw it. A guy who went on a date with a girl and threw up on his plate at their dinner because he was so nervous. So it was a story written by the female on, I think it was Twitter, because it was like a long timeline of Twitter. I don't think it was a link to a BuzzFeed story or something. But this guy was on a date with this girl and threw up on his plate because he was so nervous. I made me feel better because I was the worst dater in my young years. The worst. By far the worst. In fact, we walked down memory lane. I can remember 3 dates in college. 3 dates in college. I went to college for 4 years. 3 dates. And they were 3 dates where there was no second date. Let me run them down for you. The last one was my worst one. The first ones aren't terrible. I guess the first one is terrible. The first one wasn't great. I had finally gotten the nerve to invite this girl to a get-together at my house. We're having like a little party. I lived with 4 guys, and we were having a little get-together. Normally, they turn into game nights. It would end up with game nights. My buddy Joe he's a walking carnival. That's a wrong way to describe it because he's really awesome. He's just a walking ball of fun, but he comes up with all sorts of stuff. If people are at our house, Joe's got games no matter what, and he could read the room real well to figure out what kind of games we needed to play. He'd make them up. It was awesome. He was a walking party. And so I get the nerve to invite this girl over. She comes over an hour into everything going on. We walk in this room where people are playing ping pong. Guy swings a ping pong paddle and hits her right in the head with it. She leaves. So that was one date. Second date, a girl invited me to lunch. Cheney, Washington, what's up? Shout out. Not a lot of lunch places in Cheney. I'm in college. I'm 19 years old. This was what we did. Carl's Jr. Yes, lunch at Carl's Jr. We went, had a great time. At the end of it, she was like, well, we should do this again. We should hang out again. Maybe we do dinner or something, or we go to a movie or something like that. She goes, just text me. I said, absolutely. I never texted her, even though there was absolutely nothing wrong with her. I probably at the time, I don't remember because it was so long ago, but I'm sure I liked her. Like I said, I went on 3 dates in college. I was probably super stoked. I just didn't have the nerve to text her. Now, this is probably why I didn't have the nerve to text her. Date number 3. This is my worst date experience of all time. Build up the courage. Again, I was terrified of girls in college. I'm probably still kind of am. My wife has to put up with this. I'm probably still scared to text her exciting things. I'm not. She's the best. All of these stories are great because it turns out, oh, wow, I didn't date anyone and I ended up dating my wife and that worked out great, right? That's kind of how a lot of these things go once you're in a long-term relationship. So I get the nerve to ask this girl out to coffee because I didn't know what you're supposed to do on a date. So I asked this girl out to coffee. This was before the Supersonics got sold and my hatred for Starbucks started. So I don't know. I just felt the need to throw that in there. Starbucks, you've still ticked me off. So ask this girl to coffee. Starbucks in between 2nd and 3rd downtown Spokane, kind of in the ghetto. She says yes. I'm like, what is happening? This is crazy. What am I going to do? I remember going home, talking to my buddy Preston, my roommate Preston, and I was like, dude, I've got a date tonight. He was like, are you kidding me? Like, we didn't do dates. We sat around and played college football, Grand Theft Auto, darts, and buddies would just come over. Our house was a revolving door of people. The front door was always unlocked, and just someone was in our house at all times. Again, darts, video games. I'm trying to remember what else we would, just mainly sitting around is what we would do, but it was fun. So there was not a lot of girls involved in us living together in this house. So he was excited. I was excited. I go on this date. I meet this girl down at Starbucks. Things are going swimmingly. I've got my A game of chit chat on. I'm feeling it. And I can tell this is good. We are definitely in line for second date. We're in line for the date that I'm on right now. We might have turned this into, I'm trying to think, I'm 20 years old. What would we do at 20 years old? I might have been able to turn this into a night of mini golf, to get bowling in, right? This is happening. This is great. She gets up to go to the bathroom at the Starbucks, and I'm going to text Preston because he had said, hey, if you're coming home early, let me know. I'll fire up whatever, the PlayStation. I don't know why he wanted me to text him because I was coming home early, just because we loved each other and we were excited to see each other every single day. So he's like, dude, text me before you're going to get home. I'm like, of course I will, Preston. So I go to text him and I'm like, hey, dude, date's going really well. She's great, something along those lines. And definitely second date material, but this date could last longer than expected, okay? I hit send on it. I T9'd that thing too, and I crushed it on T9. I hit send it to Preston, and look across the table, and her phone lights up. And I look at her phone, and my name is on it. I look at my phone, and her name is on my latest text message, and I text that text message to her. And so now I'm sitting there in this chair, and she's in the bathroom, and it's about 20 seconds that I have to wait. But those 20 seconds felt like an eternity. And I just will never forget it. She comes back to the table, sits down, sees that I've texted her phone, opens her phone, looks at me, and everything magical about the night ends. She kind of like says, just trying to chit-chat. Chit-chat's my word today. She's kind of talking a little bit, and I can tell, like, not caring what she says. And just as she's talking, the gears in her brain are trying to figure out how she can get out of this date now. And so she just bails. Like, I just remember hilarious. It went from awesome, me texting, her being creeped out, obviously. Why wouldn't she be? and then just kind of like, oh, I think one of my family members is dying right now. I forgot about that. I should probably go be there for them, and just walks out of Starbucks, leaving me sitting there by myself. But because she left, I got to go home earlier, and Preston and I probably knocked out a season or two of college football that night. So who's the joke on now? Okay, I had that written down in my notes. Again, it was I delete all my notes I wrote down this week. So I want to talk about, let's do this real quick before we dive into Super Bowl stuff. I wrote this down in my notes because I think it's a good idea. If you own a shopping center, if you own a grocery store and you have self-check, here's what I need incorporated into a grocery store. Because I went to one of my favorite grocery stores, Fred Meyer. Let's go. Freddy's, you kill it. I love you. And I went there the other day, and the lines were super long, and the self-check started to get backed up because people didn't want to stand in these long lines waiting to pay for their groceries. Well, the thing was, some of the people in these lines were older folks, and I'm not saying older folks can't use self-check, but I'm just saying they're not good at it. Because you aren't. Sorry. They had their carts full of stuff. So I realized they're going to take a little while in self-check, and that's okay. That's okay. It wasn't like they weren't doing the thing where they're constantly needing help from the person who's working self-check. They were just taking their time. They had tons of stuff in their cart, a lot of vegetables. Vegetables, you got to look each one up. So it was going to be a while, and it was a while. And I thought, I wish the grocery store had the option, shot clock lanes. So you could get into self-check, and there was the no time limit self-check. You just go in, take your time, got your big cart of groceries, and you're fine. But then I want there to be like a 5-minute and mainly a 2-minute shot clock on some of these, where you scan your first item, boop, and right above the check stand, timer starts. 2 minutes. It looks like an NBA college basketball clock, red numbers, 159, 158. 157. I could count all the way down if you want. I can do this. 156. 155. So it counts down. You now have that much time to get all your groceries scanned and paid for. Okay? And if you have not begun the process of paying, so whether it's putting cash in the machine or you've slid the credit debit card up into the credit card machine, if you have not started one of those two things when the shot clock goes off, your transaction is canceled. An attendant comes over, grabs your bags of groceries that are in the bag section, put them back in your cart, back in your basket, back in your hands. They walk you back to the line, and you can either try again or go to a different lane. 2-minute shot clock in the self-check. I want this. So Fred Meyer, I know you're out there listening. Make it happen. The speed lane for those of us who just needed to grab a Mountain Dew and an applesauce pack for our daughter. Not the Mountain Dew for our daughter. Mountain Dew for me. We talked about this with Ryan yesterday. He doesn't believe in all these unhealthy things, and now I've taken enough backlash over the last 24 hours to know my daughter will never eat anything bad. Ryan got so much support about kids eating healthy yesterday. I'm afraid to give my daughter anything. So she will never get candy. She will never get soda pop. I will continue to poison my body because that's what I do, and she will now be drinking water only and whatever else Ryan's kids eat. So thank you, Ryan, for that. And thank you to everyone who chimed in over the last 24 hours to let me know that's how you should raise a kid. Okay, 2 last things for you, sports related. Super Bowl is Sunday, and I've realized for the very first time I moved back to the States in 2000. They didn't have football in Venezuela. So for the first time in 21 years, I have no Super Bowl plans. What? None, zero, zilch, nada. No Super Bowl plans because of doggone COVID and quarantine. So last year we had people over because it was pre-quarantine. And it was great. It was a fun time. This year, nothing. And it was funny because Anna mentioned to me, she's like, well, what are we doing for food on Super Bowl? And I was like, babe, there's no one coming over. It's you and me. She goes, thumbs up. That means I'm napping. I said, yeah, you're right. It does. Olivia and I are watching the Super Bowl upstairs this weekend, just the two of us by ourselves. It's the weirdest thing. And this is officially my least favorite part of all of this quarantine because I love the Super Bowl and I love the parties and I love the get-togethers. And the fact that there's none, I don't even know how to approach this weekend because I'm trying to stay fired up for the Super Bowl. I think the Super Bowl is great. Every year I love it. I love the game. I love the commercials. I love halftime. I love the whole event. But I also love it with other people. And now I'm going to be watching this by myself. I might throw the invite out to my dad. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how that goes. But it's weird. First time ever, I have zero plans for the Super Bowl. Now, that said, I've got about a day and a half to rally something. And that could be anything from the neighbors, maybe trying to rally at my buddy Tyler into letting me bring Olivia down for a little bit. And we jam out in his living room watching the game for a little bit. Or, like I said, maybe inviting my dad over here to watch the game at my house. It's just, this is not the year for Super Bowl. And I'm bummed out. And I'm seeing it. It's funny because my timelines now during Super Bowl, it's all the pictures, which I'm interested in sites doing this because I think the majority of us are still in like a lockdown mode where we're just not willy-nilly having people to our house. It's not like Preston in my house back in 2003 where it's the revolving door of just people all the time. Who knows why, when, oh, there's a guy with a trench coat who just walked into our house and offered to wrestle one of our buddies, and they did wrestle, and a couch got broken, and then the guy left, and he was bleeding, and whatever. That was my house. That was a real thing. That's not how it is now. Also, I'm an adult, so now it still sounds cool, though. That still sounds really fun. It just doesn't happen here. But quarantine has kind of put an end to a lot of the randomness of going over to someone's house. So we'll see what happens. I don't know if you guys are doing Super Bowl parties. If you are, is anyone doing a Zoom Super Bowl party? I hope not. If you are doing it, what are you doing for it? I'm seeing all the articles of food. Here's the party food you need to have for your Super Bowl this year. And I thought they'd all be individual, like, party pizzas. Hey, here is your party recipe for the week. Single serve ice cream. I'm cheering for the Bucks. I'm cheering for Tom Brady. The Kansas City Chiefs should win. I have nothing against the Kansas City Chiefs. I think Patrick Mahomes is cool. I think Travis Kelce's cool. I think other players in their team are cool. But I will cheer for old man Brady. I think that storyline to me plays a lot better. I'm more interested in that storyline as an older person. So I'm cheering for Brady. But this is also the first year I don't mind a blowout, because if the Kansas City Chiefs blow out the Bucks, the Kansas City Chiefs blowout means we're going to get some awesome offensive plays. Awesome. And I'm here for cool plays. If the Bucks blow out the Chiefs, it's going to be one of the craziest Super Bowls ever, and that storyline for Tom Brady is going to be wild. So it's a weird Super Bowl because there's no Super Bowl party. I don't really have a huge rooting interest. There's neither team I don't hate. I don't hate either team. Normally, I hate one of the two teams in the Super Bowl. And number three, it's the first year I don't care if it's a close game or not, because a blowout will mean good things for us as viewers. Either way. So, Super Bowl this weekend. I hope it's fun. Blazers won last night. I want to end it with this. The Blazers won last night, and they won without Damian Lillard. CJ McCollum is still injured. Yusuf Nurkic, of course, is still out with his injury, broken hand. They beat the best team in basketball, the Philadelphia 76ers. Now, the Sixers were without Ben Simmons, but they were down just Ben Simmons pretty much. They still had Joel Embiid, who could win the MVP. Now, Joel scored, 37 points, I think it was. He was a beast. But the Blazers were missing their two All-Stars and Yusuf Nurkic. So they were missing three of their best players. Sixers were missing one of theirs, and Blazers crushed it, including, and a shout-out, Coug fans, to Washington State Cougar and rookie CJ Ellaby, who just had a game. Rookie off the bench, comes out, had all these blocks, had like 15, 16 points, killed it, shot the ball well. The reason the Blazers win last night, Philadelphia couldn't hit a three-pointer. The Blazers will always lose games to good three-point shooting teams because the Blazers are not a great defensive team. But they're not a great defensive team who can score. So the Blazers can go down and they will shoot threes. And they will put up numbers. They will score points. Now, if they can't play defense and all you can do is hit twos, eventually the amount of threes the Blazers hit are going to keep them in that game and probably win that game. The Sixers were proof last night. They shot in the 20 percentile, the 20s for three-pointers. They were terrible shooting threes. Terrible. Blazers shot 43, 44% from three. I could look the stats up, but I'm too lazy. And that was the difference. They were in a tight game for a long time. Second half starts. Blazers hit a bunch of threes. They take a bit of a lead, and then that was enough of a lead that the Sixers could never rally, and they finally threw in the towel in the fourth quarter. Great game for Gary Trent Jr., great game for Carmelo Anthony, but CJ Elleby came out, the rookie from Washington State, and just carried the team off the bench for a while, which was huge. Okay, it's the weekend. It's the freaking weekend, baby. About to have me some fun. I hope you do too. Thank you for tuning in this week. Again, to the people who are reviewing the podcast on iTunes, I love you. To the people who have spread the word that you like this podcast, I love you. Hit me up on Twitter at Sean T. Widmer. Hit me up on Instagram at Sean T. Widmer. Who you cheering for in the game? Hit me up with your bad dating stories. Look, man, we're quarantined. I need the entertainment. Later.